A quick one, as Ross is going to start things off with a Sheltered Thicket. That's wishful thinking there, Merriam.
Well, it's a mountain for Valakut.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes the deck floods out.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes the deck is drawing to, there's about 10 cards that matter and a bunch of cards that don't. So there you go.
Goblin Guide, tack you, reveal a snow-covered mountain. Ross will add that to his hand, and we're going to head back over to Merriam for turn number 2. You have to assume he's going to have some sort of mana acceleration here. Now, part of the reason that he's playing Snow-Covered Mountains and Basic Mountains is because he does have a copy of Field of the Dead in his deck.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Sakura Tri-Belter is the play for turn 2 there for Ross. Jeff with a Monastery Swiftspear. Here come the beatdowns. Trigger, it's a lightning bolt. Merriam, does he want to block or does he want to draw that bolt? If he blocks, he gets to sacrifice a Tri-Belter and ramp. However, he would have to take 3 in order for that to be the case if he wants that bolt. Looks like he's going to let it go. He'll block the Goblin Guide, sacrifice the Tri-Belter, get himself a basic forest.
If you assume that Lambert doesn't have land number 2, which would kind of line up with what he's done so far with his draw, I think you just want to race as fast as possible to getting your Valakut, your Escape Shift online, rather than trying to draw random removal spells.
Merriam will draw a card. Looks like he picked up a Primeval Titan. See what comes next here for Ross. This is an Explorer. Draw a card. Found another mountain. That's 1. That's 2. That's Titan on 4, most likely, as we head back over to Jeff Lambert, who has not drawn a land once again. So he's got a lot of Eidolons and Rift Bolts. He'll attack here for that.
Oh!
Ah, the Acid Moss, huh?
Don't mind that. Get to that in a second.
Rift Bolt's going to go on suspend.
Now, of course, you play your Primeval Titan here. The risk, of course, is that it just draws a straight concession from Lambert, and you don't get the opportunity to Acid Moss as 1 land. You can go ahead and Acid Moss it here to try to drag the game out a little bit, but there's a risk if Lambert draws a land, then maybe he can actually beat you.
Yes.
I don't know how you want to manage this one. It's close.
Well, I know how you want to manage it.
Yeah.
You want to blow up that land. I already know that. But Ross is going to play a Primeval Titan. I think we're going to see him go get a couple copies of Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Looks like he's also going to go with the Stomping Ground because that'll allow Valakut to trigger. And he wants to take care of the Swiftspear. Goblin Guide can hang out because you don't mind finding more lands. And now Rift Bolt's going to come off a suspend, and 3 damage is going to go somewhere. It might be going to the Titan. Land has finally been drawn.
Yeah, if you put it on the Titan, then if you draw a land, as Lambert has done, you can Searing Blaze the Primeval Titan and at least sort of trick yourself into believing you're playing on.
Oh, sure. Looks like here comes Searing Blaze. So 3 and 3. Titan down. Merriam down to 11. Let's make it 9. Trigger Verdant Catacombs, which can become a mountain, of course. And that can trigger the Valakut. Ross is down to 9. He is within range. Now, Escape Shift would be a game ender.
Moss.
Well, it was not an Acid Moss. It was a Prismatic Omen.
Oh, whatever. This makes it too easy.
And now that's a Summoner's Pack, which will be getting a prime time, baby. Couple Valakuts, please and thank you. A whole bunch of triggers. Should be 18 all by itself. So Ross Merriam's going to win game number 1 here over Jeff Lambert. Titan Shift very quickly up a game over Burn. We take a look at the sideboards. If I'm Jeff, I've got 2 Dragon's Claws, 2 Grim Lavamancers, another copy of Skullcraft to go with the 3 in the main, 3 Searing Bloods, 4 Smash Smithereens, and 3 Path to Exiles. Not a lot of cards for this matchup.
No, the paths can be okay in some spots, but as you saw in that game, killing Primeval Titan isn't really a guarantee of anything. I like the additional copy of Skullcrack. Usually the sideboard cards that Titan Shift have for a matchup like this, things like Obstinate Baloth or Pulsar Marasa, some chunky ways of gaining life, and Skullcrack can line up the right way there. Well,
Ross does have 2 Obstinate Baloths. He's also got a Tireless Tracker, a Reclamation Sage, and a Collector Oof to find with Summoner's Pack. 2 Veil Summer, 2 Force of Vigor, a Beast Within a Fry, an Anger of the Gods, and 3 copies of Dampening Sphere.
So the 2 Obstinate Baloths are the easy ones to bring in here. I think there's an argument to be made for the Tireless Tracker to come in, maybe even Beast Within, maybe Anger of the Gods, but obviously the Obstinate Baloths get the top billing here.
Well, those are the options there for both players. They're already shuffling up and getting ready for game number 2. We want your questions, by the way, because we'd like to take some to end the round, as we always do here on round number 5 of the SCG Tour. So send them with that hashtag SCGDFW. You can send them to me at Cedric A. Phillips, and we'll take some at the end of the round. Any questions you have about the banned and restricted announcement that took place by Wizards of the Coast on Monday, what we think of this brand new modern format, because there's plenty to say with Stoneforge Mystic being unbanned, Hogak, Arisen Necropolis, and Faithless Looting long gone, and hey, your old buddy Rampaging Ferocidon's back in Standard.
Yeah, unfortunately I submitted my Standard League deck list before the bannings got announced. I was going to play with Ferocidon today, or yesterday evening, but didn't get an opportunity to because my deck list is locked. I have to play through that Standard League on Magic Online, current record 1-1, and then I'll give the Ferocidon a little bit of burn. Assuming it's not too expensive, because I will not pay 25 cents a piece for these Ferocidons if they're only good for a couple weeks.
Well, they are only good for a couple of weeks. But they could be really good for this couple of weeks. We'll see, as both these players are going to lay out 7 cards. Take a little look here.
I think I like all the cards that I'm playing now more, but I would like to try it at least.
You see a Path to Exile has come in here for Jeff Lambert. That's hanging out in his hand. It's just a 1-lander here for our burn player. Ross is going to send it back, not happy with what he has seen. Titan Shift, maybe a bit of a surprising choice here for Merriam, but the decks that we have seen him have a lot of success with in Modern over the past year and a half or two have all included Faithless Looting. I think of Dredge, and I think of Izzet Phoenix.
Well, and the decks that are, Stoneforge Mystic and the decks you would expect to kind of crop up in response to Stoneforge Mystic do a lot of playing to the battlefield and playing a lot of removal spells, and that strategy is extremely bad against Titan Shift.
I'm inclined to agree. How good is Titan Shift now? It's tough to say. This is a deck that has done well for a very long time. Hasn't put up crazy good results, but it's always a viable option. There are versions that play through the breach and play a little more pedal to the metal. We've seen bigger versions with Hour of Promise before. There's a lot of ways that you can build this strategy, but ultimately what this deck mostly does is ignore the opponent and try to kill them on turn number 4 or 5 with either Primeval Titan or Scapeshift. Bloodstained Mire here for Jeff is where he's going to start things. He will sacrifice that, get himself a Sacred Foundry, and fall down to 17. So Scapeshift will be its lethal self on 7 lands. 6 in the Valakut. There's a Goblin guy going to reveal a Stomping Ground, and the mulligan has been undone. Merriam will pick up that Stomping Ground, so he'll draw for his turn here in just a moment, and we'll see what his first turn yields, as he picked up a copy of Shelter Thicket as well. He'll play a Stomping Ground untapped. He's going to fall down to 16. And it looks like he may have a Lightning Bolt at the ready for the Goblin Guide. Lambert appears as though he's kept a 1-lander once again, so he'll play another Goblin Guide. And he'll be coming into the red zone. Triggers from Goblin Guide. 1 is Snow-Covered Mountain. 2 is a Search for Tomorrow. And that will be a Lightning Bolt, as Merriam's going to fall down to 14. Merriam is going to draw that Search for Tomorrow. There's a mountain. This is a Sakura Tribe Elder. And we'll head back over to Jeff. Jeff has not found a land once again, so he'll play a Swift Spear. He'll come in with both creatures, trigger the Goblin Guide. Summoner's Pact, not a bad find. Don't know if Ross needs it, and he doesn't, so he'll block and sack.
It's too important to keep his life total high here. I think there's almost no draw step he would take here over a block and a sack.
He's going to get himself a basic forest, which means that Primeval Titan and Scapeshift can now be cast. Double green is taken care of. If you're Jeff Lambert, you really need a second land. If you're Ross, Nopson and Baloth wouldn't be too bad. We will head back over to Ross. He will untap and draw. He's found a copy of Explorer. We saw how good that was for Ross last game. Again, Ross opting to split up his basics. Some just normal basics, some snow-covered because of the solo copy of Field of the Dead.
And also just good practice. It's good practices.
Ross trying to figure out how best to sequence here. He'll go with the snow-covered forest and now the obstinate Baloth. So Merriam's going to go up to 17. He's got a 4/4 blocker. We head back over to Lambert. All right, he has finally drawn that land. Wooded Foothills was the draw.
The Baloth is a ton of breathing space. So much life. The right size for the job.
Does it all.
going to require multiple cards here unless Lambert has a path.
Well, the path is in hand, but pathing against Scapeshift is not ideal.
Right, that's why, you know, it's fine to bring in, and there's some spots where if you tag their Primeval Titan, that's really all they can do. But you don't feel good about this.
It'll be a Swift Spear and now a path. So Merriam's going to get another land. I presume it will be a mountain here in just a moment, and it is. And now this will be an attack here for 6 because of the prowess triggers on the Swift Spear. So Merriam's going to fall down to 11 at some point this turn. But he'll also have a Goblin Guide trigger to see if he does find a land. And that'll be another obstinate Baloth.
A lot of those.
Yeah. Merriam will draw that Baloth. He does have the ability to cycle a Shelter Thicket, but he's going to start with an Explorer. There is the Shelter Thicket. There's a Misty Rainforest. Sacrifice the Misty Rainforest. Fall down to 10. Get a basic. Actually, it's going to be a Cinderglade that enters the battlefield untapped. Now there is a, never mind, it's a Scapeshift. We'll be done here in just a second, folks, because Ross is going to get 6 Mountains and a Valakut, and we can call this one all done. Perhaps Timeshift isn't so bad against Burn, but Jeff's draws didn't really line up great with these one-landers, never drew another one on time, and Ross Merriam wins this match 2-0.